Opposition leads justice for Adriana protest outside State House. By news source Guyana. Demanding justice for 11-year-old Adriana Young, leader of the opposition Aubrey Norton led a peaceful protest outside State House today. This Saturday marks 1 month since Young was found dead in the pool at the Doubleday Hotel in Tucson. A post-mortem examination indicated that she died by drowning, but her family has been pressing for a second autopsy and a more detailed, independent investigation into her death. The government brought in a Canadian homicide expert to assist with the probe, but Norton expressed dissatisfaction with the investigation's progress. He criticized the police for not operating within a legal framework, claiming they failed to take statements and suggesting they aimed to protect those involved in the incident. The police don't operate within a legal framework, and it is for that reason they didn't take statements, expecting this matter would be swept under the carpet. The police force's role is to protect the elites involved in crime, and we could never be satisfied until there is justice, Norton stated. He questioned the government's reluctance to support a second autopsy, emphasizing that the first was conducted at Georgetown Public Hospital by 3 international pathologists, including one selected by the family. Norton believes the family's request for a second opinion should be honored. What does the government have to hide? If there's nothing to conceal, why place barriers in the way of another autopsy? He asked. The family of Adriana Young continues to seek justice, and she has yet to be laid to rest. Cuban woman slashed to death by stepfather, mother critically injured in early morning attack. By news source Guyana. A 21-year-old Cuban woman, Davely Morales, was brutally stabbed to death by her stepfather this morning at an apartment building on Pike Street, Kitty. Davely traveled to Guyana from Cuba with her mother, stepfather, and younger sister, and the family was renting the apartment in Kitty. Around 7 a.m., loud screams were heard coming from the apartment. An eyewitness, a tenant in the same building, investigated the noise and found the stepfather, Whispery Alfonso, armed with a chopper, attacking his wife. The witness also saw Davely lying on the floor with multiple wounds. Although she managed to escape the apartment, she collapsed just outside and was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect, 40 years old, was seen leaving the building with the weapon. Emergency services were called, and both injured women were transported to the hospital, where the mother was admitted in critical condition. The police reported that the suspect walked into the Kitty police station with the murder weapon and surrendered. He was immediately arrested, and the investigation is ongoing. Brazilian national charged for illegal gold possession. Granted $75,000 bail. In a joint intelligence-led operation by the Special Organized Crime Unit, SOCU, on Wednesday, May 21, 2025, Osmil Costa da Silva, a Brazilian national from 111 Mile Madia, Region 8, was charged on Friday, May 23, 2025, for possession of gold by person not being a producer, in accordance with the Guyana Gold Board Act, Chapter 66-01. Osmil Costa da Silva appeared in Georgetown Magistrates Court No. 1 before Acting Chief Magistrate Faith McGusty, where the charge was read, and he pleaded not guilty. He was granted bail in the amount of $75,000. The case has been transferred to the Madia Magistrates Court, with the next court date set for June 20, 2025. Guyana will not be bullied or intimidated by Venezuela's aggression, says Foreign Minister. By news source Guyana. Ahead of Venezuela's planned sham elections this Sunday to elect a governor and officials for Guyana's Essequibo region, Guyana's Foreign Minister Hugh Todd reaffirmed today that the country will not be intimidated or bullied by Venezuela's provocations. Todd stated that, based on current intelligence, there has been no campaigning for the elections on Guyana's territory. However, he emphasized that Guyana is taking the matter seriously and has activated all diplomatic and legal options available. During a debate in the National Assembly this morning to denounce Venezuela's planned election, Todd noted that Venezuela continues to act in defiance of the International Court of Justice's orders. While we have no evidence of physical activities in our border communities indicating preparations for elections in Essequibo, it is crucial for Venezuela to understand that Guyana will not be bullied, threatened, or intimidated into surrendering any portion of our territory, Todd stated. Todd detailed Venezuela's sustained aggression, including harassment, threats, and incursions over the years, noting that there were moments, particularly in late 2023, when Venezuela prepared for military aggression against Guyana. On each occasion that I have mentioned where Venezuela violated our territorial integrity, we took immediate and strategic action. We lodged a protest with Venezuela and informed the International Court of Justice about their belligerent actions, he added. The foreign minister highlighted that the government has ramped up diplomatic pressure abroad, with both the United Nations Secretary-General and the ICJ now informed of Venezuela's actions, which he believes will bolster Guyana's case. We have intensified our legal and diplomatic efforts to preserve our sovereignty and territorial integrity in response to Venezuela's escalating claims over Essequibo. In March 2018, we filed an application with the court to declare the 1899 arbitral award as valid and binding for both sides, Minister Todd explained. He also addressed a recent ICJ decision where 3 judges dissented, clarifying that the dissent was procedural and not related to the merits of Guyana's case. The justices agreed in substance that Venezuela must refrain from planning the elections, noting that there was already a decision barring such actions. Sofia vendor pleads guilty to armed robbery. Sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. Elson Figuera, a 24-year-old vendor from Lot 1070 Cummings Park, Sofia, was arrested on Thursday, May 22, 2025, by a police officer from Turkian police station and charged with robbery under arms. Figuera pleaded guilty to committing the armed robbery against Henrietta Sumner, a 22-year-old nurse assistant, on May 18, 2025, at a field, South Sofia, Georgetown. He appeared before Her Worship Magistrate Abigail Gibbs at the Sparendam Magistrates Court, where the charge was read, and he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Jagdio says, no special treatment given to Chinese in Guyana. Newsroom reports. Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdio stated on Thursday that there is no special treatment for any group, aiming to dispel claims that the government favors Chinese businesses over others. At his weekly press conference, Jagdio addressed allegations of Chinese dominance in the quarry and sand production sectors. He acknowledged that the number of operators in these industries has increased due to rising demand, with quarries growing from 6 in 2020 to 16 today, and annual production surging from 740,000 tons to 3.3 million tons. However, he emphasized that the new licensees are Guyanese, not Chinese. It's a fallacy, it's fiction, he declared. In sand production, the number of license holders has risen to 67 from 18 in 2020, with similar growth in production involving Guyanese participants. The increased demand for these materials has been driven by the government's focus on robust development. Jagdio noted that while Chinese companies are involved in significant publicly funded projects, such as the new Demerara harbor crossing and a mega solar farm in Linden, many contracts are awarded to local firms and other nationalities. In the private sector, Chinese companies are executing projects, with Chinese workers often assisting. Jagdio explained that some construction projects, including new hotels, involve Chinese contractors because they may be able to complete them faster and, in some cases, at a lower cost. Nevertheless, he reiterated, there must be no special treatment for anyone. He also mentioned the proliferation of Chinese supermarkets across the country, stressing that the government is committed to ensuring compliance with regulations, including the acquisition of necessary licenses like liquor licenses, before any operations commence. Kitty vendor sentenced to 1 year imprisonment after pleading guilty to the charge of attempt to commit a felony. Anthony O'Malley Clark, a 26-year-old vendor from William Street, Kitty, Georgetown, was arrested on May 21, 2025, and charged with attempt to commit a felony in violation of Section 36 of the Criminal Law, Offenses, Act, Chapter 801. Clark is accused of committing the offense against Joshua Kumar, a 33-year-old welder from a field, South Sofia, on May 18, 2025. He appeared before Her Worship Magistrate Abigail Gibbs at the Sparendam Magistrates Court, where the charge was read, and he pleaded guilty. Clark was subsequently sentenced to 1 year of imprisonment. Court tosses Brutus lawsuit against EPA for sand pit permit. Chief Justice, AG, Roxanne George dismissed the lawsuit filed by former Assistant Commissioner Calvin Brutus, which sought to compel the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, to grant him a mining permit for sand pit operations. The court also ordered Brutus to pay costs amounting to $250,000 before July 31, 2025. The EPA was represented by attorneys Sanjeev Dadadan, Naomi Alsop, and Moheni Anganu, while Brutus was represented by attorney Earl Daniels. Last March, it was reported that both Brutus and Commissioner Clifton Hicken had secured 11.7 acres of land each for sand mining in Yarrowcabra, Soesdijk/Linden Highway, and had submitted applications to the EPA. The EPA denied Brutus' application after Vice President Barrett Jagdio announced that permits for both officers would not be granted. In response, Brutus filed a lawsuit to compel the EPA to issue him the permit. In his affidavit, EPA Executive Director Kemraj Parsram stated that Brutus had not fulfilled all statutory requirements necessary for his application to be considered. He noted that Brutus failed to meet the requirements of Regulation 17(2) of the EPA, which are essential for obtaining an environmental permit. Parsram explained that the EPA had begun processing Brutus' application with the understanding that all relevant documents would be provided, but this did not happen. He emphasized that the applicant did not present a lease in his name permitting the proposed activity. Furthermore, the EPA director mentioned that land use matters fall under the jurisdiction of other state agencies, and the EPA had not received the necessary documents from those agencies. Parsram also highlighted that Brutus is currently facing a series of charges, raising concerns about the legitimacy of funds involved in the project. He denied any allegations that the EPA's decision was influenced by the president or vice president of Guyana. The EPA retains the authority to make independent decisions regarding licensing and permits. Parsram noted that Brutus, as a former member of the Guyana police force, should have provided permission from the force for his business venture, which further complicated the application process. The EPA can only grant permits after all necessary documents are submitted by the applicant. Gibraltar house destroyed by electrical fire. Newsroom reports. A house located at Lot 155, Gibraltar Village, Region 6, was completely destroyed by an electrical fire on Thursday night, leaving 2 people homeless. Junior Jonas, 51, a part-time government worker at the Firish Neighborhood Democratic Council, occupied the upper flat of the 2-story wooden house, which had 2 bedrooms. His nephew-in-law resided in the lower flat, which also contained 2 bedrooms. In an interview, Lotaya Griffith, who had recently moved out of the property with her 3 children, recounted the incident. At around 10:22 p.m., her mother alerted her to smoke in the yard. Upon investigation, her mother discovered that Jonas's house was fully engulfed in flames. The Rose Town Fire Station was promptly contacted, and firefighters succeeded in preventing flames from spreading to a nearby shop. Jonas was in a nearby village when he received news of the disaster. He had visited the property just 2 weeks prior, as he typically stayed with his partner. He confirmed that his nephew-in-law was not home at the time of the fire, and all their belongings, including money, were lost. "I had a fully furnished home and couldn't save anything from the fire's destruction," Jonas stated. Expressing his determination to rebuild, he said, "I'm grateful for any assistance to rebuild. I used to cut cane but left because of illness." Jonas added, "I feel terrible losing everything to the fire. Right now, it's like I'm taking it all in. Things are expensive now, and it's not like I have a well-paying job." Divisional Fire Officer Clive MacDonald confirmed that the fire was electrical in nature.